being set up. And we're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Animation SA's Stakeholder Engagement Talks. We're doing a series of talks this week to inform you of what's going on in the animation industry, what we've been up to, and our plans going forward. And we have some great events happening online. Please check out our social media campaign for more information. Today we are having a chat with Kirsten Lee Gray. Welcome, Kirsten, to these online talks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I was lucky enough to meet Kirsten when I was doing some research into what's happening in the animation VR and AR and interactive space. There's some very talented people doing some amazing work, and there's lots of opportunities for collaboration. There's some great tech involved. Kirsten is someone who has come into the industry via the film industry and has been involved in setting up Africa's first online VR festival. Am I right, Kirsten?
First free online VR festival. It's called Electric Africa. This was during my time at Electric South.
Okay, great. And I imagine there was a great response to VR and AR content. Do you feel that there's a kind of groundswell that people are getting more and more interested in this space?
I think that the interest has always been there. I think that the gap that we're trying to bridge is how do people access this? I think that there's just people who are novices to extended reality don't really know how easy it actually is to participate. So I think that's our role as people within this community, is to just shed a light on that and make sure people know that anybody can get involved.
Great, thanks so much. So Kirsten's prepared some material to take us through today. She's going to take us on a little journey into her world. So sit back and relax, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Kirsten.
Thank you. Here we go. Welcome to the future. For the next 45 minutes, I want you to suspend your disbelief, open up your crown chakra, and come on a journey with me. Imagine a world where you walk in through the glass entrance doors of this expansive gallery space. You put your haptic suit on in a clean and sterile environment, safely store your personal belongings, and are ushered in a small but controlled group to the main area for the beginning of a mind-blowing experience. At this main area, you are met with the first usher, an actor who strategically leads you through dark and mysterious curtains. Let's switch slides. As you look around, you are transported into an otherworldly dimension. Now, let's rewind and start this process all over again. This time, You walk through your kitchen, past the dishes you have strategically packed into an indestructible tower in your sink, towards the couch in the comfort of your dirty pajamas. You pop on your headset and are transported to the same otherworldly dimension. Immersive storytelling has this duality, and whichever experience you prefer, the option is available to you. But for the sake of this presentation, and for the sake of imagining a world where technology is democratized and public spaces all around Africa where one can get the same feeling, or rather there are public spaces all around Africa where one can get the same feeling without the same cost of owning a headset exists. So therefore, most of this talk will focus on location-based events. And we know it's COVID, but we'll pretend like 2020 and 2021 never existed. So to understand where we are going, we have to understand how far we've come. This is a little timeline of VR. In 1987, the creation of modern virtual reality is popularized by Jaron Lanier. In 1991, Antonio Medina, a NASA scientist, designed a VR system to drive the Mars robot rovers from Earth in supposed real time. In 1995, Nintendo launched the Virtual Boy console, which played 3D monochrome video games. In 2007, Google introduced a stereoscopic 3D mode for Street View. In 2012, after prototyping the Rift in 2010, Palmer Luckey launches a Kickstarter campaign raising $2.4 million. In 2014, Facebook purchases Oculus for $2 billion. 2017, Alejandro Inarritu takes home the first ever Oscar for his VR experience, Carne e Irina. In 2018, Scatter wins the first ever Emmy for their VR experience, 0 Days. In 2019, a Nigerian filmmaker, Joel Benson, wins a Venice Award for the best virtual reality story at Venice Film Festival with his film, Daughters of Chibok. The Lost Botanist from Eden becomes the first African VR project in competition at Annecy. And in 2019, the Oculus Quest is released. But hold your horses. There are some limitations to this industry. Despite the great strides made to keep the VR immersive storytelling sector growing, we are yet to see mass adoption from the public, due partly to the high cost of headsets and limited content. Advanced technology required for this particular making, or rather this particular filmmaking, means that those without access are inevitably left out. There has been a push to democratize the medium, and less expensive equipment has been sent all over Africa and South America. But with a lack of audience, who exactly is watching? So where are we now? And why has Africa got the sauce? Let's pretend the last 30 years existed in a vacuum in some alternate universe, and thanks partly to 2020 and the pandemic, there's a massive migration to online, which has thrust us all into the metaverse. People inside and outside the industry all know it's a super attractive place to be. And we all know we're on the brink of something great, or at least we hope. At this point, the best stories win. Telling simple stories and exhibiting it in effective ways win. Distributors of VR have discovered that VR is appealing to the public and has discovered that it's appealing to the public when exhibited with a multimedia layered approach. Oral traditions of storytelling that force the audience to bring their entire being into the story wins. Africa and Africans have a long tradition of oral storytelling. We have a natural inclination for mind-stretching stories. African imaginations matter. And now is the time for us to ramp up. Now is the time for us to start preparing our imaginations to meet the opportunity in front of us. Gumption. Where does that get us? There once was a young lady who was tired of seeing stories that never reflected her or her culture. Who was frankly a little tired of the lack of excitement the stories that did exist provided. She dreamt of creating a new reality. So one day, she opened up her own crown chakra and outsold the concept about a tokolosh and the dark, eerie world of African folklore. One day, she even had enough gumption to send that concept off to a festival called VR Days, Europe's biggest VR festival. Weirdly, they accepted her. The concept went from this festival to the next. She started with no resources, with no team, just an idea and a passion for what she was creating. She found out about the insatiable hunger the world has for us to express ourselves. That young lady was me, and I'm here to tell you that if I can do it, you can too. So what does this layered reality even look like? Simply, we combine disciplines at every single step of the process, from concept to exhibition. We remain fluid and flexible and are not limited or confined to traditional conventions. We seek unique collaborators, for example, between theatre practitioners, motion capture and CGI, and animators, right from the beginning to create these incredible pieces of art. We are not limited as to where we can exhibit and meet, from our homes online or galleries, VR cinema, and even bespoke location-based events. Perhaps in a post-COVID world, all of these combined. But no one practice is better than the other. In fact, we have to keep all the wheels turning, all together, all the time. We have to constantly reach across the aisle if we want to build this space. This means more collaborations between artists across disciplines, projection mappers, reality capturers, gaming, augmented reality, filmmakers, animators, theatre practitioners, puppeteers, storytellers, writers, technologists. We have to have democratized, high-tech event spaces that allow public access to the works for a nominal fee, as well as greater access to headsets and equipment on the continent. We have to have access to research and development for technologists. We have to have access to skills development from leading technologists. We have to have access to project funding for storytellers. We have to see the continued engagement with audiences in safe and hygienic ways. We have to create global visibility at festivals worldwide, global exhibitions, and smart partnerships with studios, distributors, and technology partners globally that benefit us on the continent. And oh, the problems that we would solve. Aside from the potential of creating a thriving creative industry where we can see smart collaborations with studios, we have the potential to reach across the aisle, not just creatively, but across industry as well. This means education, mining, medicine, agriculture, finance, tech. The skills we have will have a practical application, but most importantly, it will allow us to flex our critical thinking. When critical thinking is applied to creativity, we have the potential to really change lives and create endless opportunities that would not have otherwise existed. And I know the animation and creative industries are always on the pulse, but for those of you thinking, but how, Sway? These are just some of the ways in which collaborations have come to life. Seen on the screen right now is The Last Botanist. It is a great example of what's being done locally. The team used 2D animation in a 360 environment. Every piece of artwork is hand-drawn, pen to paper, and then scanned into Photoshop for coloring and details. What you're looking at now is the metaverse. It is quite literally the new frontier, and perhaps what gets us in the immersive community most excited. Accessing the metaverse via apps like VRChat allows us to build in real time from anywhere in the world, collaborating with anyone anywhere in the world. And all you require is a headset or a computer. These images that you're looking at right now are taken from Eden's website. Thank you, Rick. Thanks, Gary. This is the Invisible exhibition, a collaboration with William Kentridge at the Center for the Less Good Idea. It shows practical applications to using animation in VR via tools like Tiltbrush. With tools like Tiltbrush, you are able to sculpt in 3D, and you are able to put those sculptures into AR applications or even have them transferred into 6 staff or 6 degrees of freedom VR experiences. So to conclude, for years, people have been debating the future of VR. The wheels keep spinning round and round with no real definitive outcome. What I'm saying here today is not that we have found the solution to VR, no. What I'm saying is there will never be a discussion or development in VR without us Africans ever again. We will be a part of the conversation because we are the solution. We are the future. All of us brave enough to put our imaginations to the test. If you are keen to reach across the aisle, come find our community at Immersive Africa, or hashtag Immersive Africa. We also have a community group called VR Jersey, which is searchable on all platforms and spans the continent, not just Johannesburg itself. I do hope that from this conversation, you are as excited about the potential of the immersive reality space and immersive storytelling. I think that it holds endless possibilities for us as creatives. It holds endless possibilities for us as storytellers. It is a great way for us to increase our collaboration and online collaboration has made this an easier thing to do. And I look forward to any questions that anybody may have. And I'll also make sure, can I also make sure that if anybody is interested in any of this, that the presentation is available.
Thanks so much for that. I have a question. I'm very curious to know, how big is the VR AR community in Southern Africa? And is it South Africa specifically, or do we also have other industries emerging in other parts of the continent? And where are the hubs?
So you'll be happy to know that it's not just South Africa. It's South Africa, it's Nigeria, it's Kenya, it's Tanzania, it's Egypt. There are hubs, Sudan. There are hubs sprouting all across Africa. And because our community is small but active, we are slowly mobilizing together. I think there are a couple hundred, if not a couple thousand of us. And a lot more creatives are still working in silos. So as we discover more and more, we just sort of bring everybody together. But yeah, it's a small but very active and vibrant community.
That's good to know. That's so exciting. So how can people see some of the work that's coming out of these creative hubs? Where can they see the content?
The best thing to do is to search hashtag Immersive Africa. That will bring up basically everybody, while most people within this community, and the works that they've done. That's the best way to sort of get a consolidated overview of what's been happening in our community.
Thanks. That's great to note, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious. I'm also curious to know if someone is wanting to get into this space, but they don't know how to start, where's a good starting point for them?
This is going to sound so silly, but Google. I think that the internet is wonderful. The internet is a great place for you to see where the community exists. By Googling Immersive Africa, you then see who the practitioners are. Everybody is so open and so inviting. You can reach out to absolutely anybody and we'll all be able to point you in the right direction. And if we can't, we'll send you to somebody who can. I think that slowly educational institutions are taking on this space. I think that they've seen a great potential for this. And one educational institution in particular, Chimalagang at Wits, has been really sort of instrumental in the building of this space. So yes, I'm very excited. For those who are wanting to explore this as a career, I would definitely say look at Wits, look at the Chimalagang precinct, see what they're doing. Look at the Immersive Africa hashtag, see the different people who are in the industry, reach out. The community is open and the community is excited. We're new, we're young, we're vibrant, we've got lots of energy, so we're always welcome to new people and people who may not necessarily have a tech background but have a story base. Reach out. You never know what can come of it. It's a great space to collaborate because we're such a fluid community. It's lots of good things come out of collaboration with us.
Wonderful. And I imagine there's a lot of technologists who are interested in this field as well. Do you find a lot of people that you collaborate also come from the coding backgrounds, that kind of space? Are you crossing paths with that community too?
Absolutely. We're not limited to just the creative space. It's across the board. So technologists as well. I think in Africa in specific, we have a big infrastructure deficit. So it's even more vital that people who are interested in the tech and the coding of this industry become part of that community. You know, it's a good way to sort of nurture those talents and to pool resources, most importantly.
And internationally, are you finding a lot of room for collaboration internationally? Is there a big community in the world who's doing great things?
Absolutely. I think that places to look at would definitely be Montreal. France has a big, vibrant community. The Netherlands are slowly starting to build their community. They're doing great work. Surprisingly, Lithuania has a really good, strong community as well. As well as if you're really particularly interested in immersive theatre, then London is the place to look. They've done some great collaborations. One of the clips that I showed you was actually from The Tempest, which was a collaboration between the Royal Shakespeare Company and the Imaginarium by Andy Serkis, and that was received wonderfully. So that's a really exciting space for storytellers in particular to look out for.
That's very exciting. So if I wanted to go and see some of the work that's been done, I suppose internationally and locally, I don't have a headset. So what's the best? Are there places where I can go and use headsets? And are there? What's the kind of the tech penetration of the market here?
Yeah, so in Johannesburg, there's a gallery called the Tomorrow Gallery, which is based at the Art Smile. These Art Smile. can never put the S in the right place. But it's just off Jan Smuts. And that's a great space to check out. They always have really interesting exhibitions there. And that's a great way to sort of, it's a great entry point into the space. Obviously, COVID has put a bit of a damper on the event side of things. And we're hoping that as the vaccine rollout continues and as the year progresses, that the end of 2021 and beginning of 2022 will see a more favorable environment for these kinds of events. In Cape Town, prior to the pandemic, Electric South was doing a lot of work in terms of exhibitions. We would go into communities in Kailicha. We'd base ourselves at the Goethe Center in Kailicha so that the community can come in and engage with the content that we created, as well as the Zeitsmoker were quite a popular venue for us just in terms of exhibitions. The current climate it's tricky, but that's the exciting part about the metaverse. The metaverse is something that's immediate. If you have a PC or computer, it's accessible via computer. You can jump straight into the metaverse and see people world building in real time. Obviously, if you have a headset, your experience and the immersion in this is greater. So you can also access the metaverse through your headset if you do have one. I think that the future of events, like I said in the presentation, I'm hoping that we would see a lot more investment into these high-tech spaces that allow us to adequately democratize the medium, so that South African and African audiences are getting the same experience that people in Europe or Asia or America are getting. You know, I feel like we have the same potential, we have the same opportunities in front of us. We just need to dive into it a little bit deeper. And there are ways of making these things safe. There's technologies like the Clean Box, which allows us to disinfect headsets with UV rays. There's also social distancing, which you can adequately do with VR. In terms of sort of multi-layered events and multimedia events, smaller groups, so you can explore this space with people in your bubble, and more sort of like controlled environments where we can ensure hygiene and cleanliness is adhered to. It's definitely possible if we start small and allow the situation to be a little bit more controlled initially. But I see this growing, I see the space growing, I think that South Africans love events, we love new things, and we should definitely explore this more. It's this industry is so untapped, and the beauty of it is that even though there's a greater amount of investment and a greater amount of funding for people in Europe and Asia and America, in North America rather, they haven't hit the mass market either, you know? And that's why I say Africa has the source. We have the it thing, we have what it takes. We just need to open our minds to the possibilities and realize that it stretches so far beyond just the creative space. It stretches into other industries as well. We need to start with the creative space because I think that that's an industry that's being neglected in our country and on the continent. And it's a shame because Africans are inherently creative. So this is just sort of just an introduction to what the potential is for the space, and I'm, as you can tell, very excited. I could go around in circles for an eternity. But the space holds a lot of potential, and I'm very excited to see more people like me, you know, coming out. And it really takes little to no resources to have an idea, and it takes little to no resources to have the courage to reach across the aisle, communicate with your fellow creatives, and see what comes of it. You know, it takes little to no resources to put your idea out there and let the public decide if they want to see it or not. So,
and storytelling is your speciality and your focus. So how would you say storytelling differs from telling stories in a linear way, as we have in kind of edited content, versus what you're doing in the immersive space?
So the immersive space is different because it is, once you have your headsets on, you are in first person. So instead of being a passive viewer, you're now an active participant in the story. The way that the audience engages with the story is completely different. You're not just telling them about the world, you're putting them in the world. You're literally putting a headset on somebody and saying, yeah, go. Go into this world that I envision. go into this world that I've created and experience it for yourself. I think that that's the key difference between sort of linear style storytelling and VR or AR as well. And I think with sort of mixed media, or sorry, not mixed media, but layered exhibitions, we can build that intensity even more with collaborations with art directors to build the space, collaborations with other tech disciplines like projection mapping, reality capture, collaborations with theatre practitioners to really bring the audience into this world even further. There's the possibilities are endless. We really need to not even think outside the box, just realize that it's not a box. It's a crazy hexagon or pentagon or whatever gon you can think of, octagon, whatever. It's not a box. It's a weird geometric shape, and we can plug anything into this shape and we can make the shape ours.
Wow, that's very inspiring. I see there's some questions coming in from our audience on Facebook. So what sort of content, VR content, are you excited to see in accessible spaces in South Africa?
I'm excited to just see, well, I'm particularly excited to see fictional content. I really want to see South Africans and Africans stretch our imaginations. I think that in particular with the story that I'm currently developing, which is Tokolosh and Other Behemoth Creatures, it's a 6-part anthology that's based on African folklore, or as I've put it to anybody who's willing to listen, folk gore. I think that, you know, this is a fun space to be in. And I really want to see us flex our creative muscles. So I'm excited for that. I think that there's a lot of storytellers who have been sort of dipping their toes in this, and I'm excited to see it build even further. So yeah, so I hope that answers your question. So I'm most excited for fictional. Yeah.
Great. And then another question that's come in, how is VR being used for education?
VR is being used for education through companies that specifically sort of cater to educational NGOs, or you know, there's the more sort of corporate application where they create educational stories, and that then goes out to schools. There's a company called TechRow, I think in New York, who compile stories and send that out to learners. And then in terms of augmented reality, that's where we really see them collaborate on a greater scale. That's the best possibility, or what we've seen thus far, the best possible outcome for education. We've got a wonderful company in South Africa called Sisanda Tech, which basically I think they focus on STEM, so science, technology, mathematics, and they basically use augmented reality to teach learners about these subjects. So the application's been used in various ways, but I think the most exciting thing for education at the moment is actually augmented reality, because that's a little bit, it's been dissected more. and it's more accessible in terms of mobile. And it has an immediate application which people are implementing right now as we speak, and across Africa. So not just in South Africa, but also in Nigeria, in Kenya. And I think in terms of VR and education, I think that the great thing about VR is that it's such a cliche thing to say, but it really is an empathy machine. If you look at Joel Benson's Daughters of Jabak, it basically took people to these girls who were, it's basically about the girls from Jibak that were taken by Boko Haram, but it transported you to their school, it transported you to their lives, and it made you feel what they must have been feeling when they were taken away. And it basically gives you a deeper perspective into the human condition. So I think that in terms of VR, we can tap into the emotional or the psyche of the viewer a little bit more effectively when it comes to social issues that we face as a human race.
Great. Yeah, that social aspect is so important, and that empathy aspect. I've seen some extraordinary exhibitions that involve interactive technology that really facilitate the experience of being there, which really helps people to contextualize their stories, and being involved in those mass experiences, to fill that out a little bit and facilitate human empathy. There's another question. Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I was just going to add that we're overly desensitized because of the 24-hour news cycle. So when you're able to put yourself into somebody else's shoes, or rather you're literally able to put yourself into somebody else's shoes. It gives you a complete new appreciation for what they might have gone through.
Yeah. Another comment that's come in, I'd love to know how to write a VR script. Who specializes in scripting for VR? Is there any particular language that is used that's favored? Does it have its own language? Do you know?
So it depends on the kind of story that you're telling. Obviously, if you have the more interactivity you have, the more complex your script is. But if you're just telling a straightforward 360 narrative where it isn't a choose your own adventure, it isn't interactive, it's just a sort of a linear narrative in the 360 world, you can easily just use normal scripting software. But in terms of getting in contact with people who do write scripts, I'm happy for you to contact me, whoever's interested, and I'm happy to put you in contact with people who do specialize in scripting. As I said, the community is quite small, so we're happy to share knowledge.
That's great. That collaborative spirit is, I'm sure, what will help us to grow this particular sector. Another question that's come in, how long do you think it'll be till the majority of people have access to VR in Africa? We're talking about the majority here. So I imagine, I remember having conversations about where we were wondering how long it would take before the majority of people had smartphones. We were having this conversation in 2004. So do you think it'll be similar, kind of 15 years Or
I don't think it's going to be that long. I think we're on the brink. I think that technology is moving at a rapid pace. I mean, even with the release of the Quest 2, I think it was late last year or early this year. I can't actually remember the date because the pandemic is just one month for me. I think that we're going to see lots and lots of we're going to see lots and lots of new developments. I think that people are leaning towards you need to realize the headset's bulky. It's very bulky. It's not an easy everyday application. So a lot of people are trying to lean into the glasses, VR glasses, and making it more accessible that way. So the technology is there. It's just about putting it into the right application, and I don't think it's going to take decades. I think it's going to be a matter of years. And I think once we find the right formula, it's going to be an immediate adoption. Because if you can keep the costs low, you can roll this out at quite a speed. I don't think anybody denies the benefits of VR. I think at the moment it's really just a cost thing. It's how do we keep the costs at a practical sort of price point for everyday consumers.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the next question is from a strategic point, you've mentioned many needs to fully develop into the future. So you're mentioning needs for headsets, public access, people getting involved, like kind of getting to a critical mass so that we have enough people interested to roll out bigger projects, I would imagine. How are you planning to meet these needs, and how can others get involved on a practical level?
So I think within the community itself, we're sort of mobilizing ourselves. We're setting the groundwork for, okay, who are we? What do we do? What are our areas of expertise? How do we identify more efficiently who and where on the continent a particular skill set exists? So I think within our community, we're currently mapping that out. As I said, the community is small, but it's active, and it's quite we easily mobilize ourselves. So the communication is there. And then in terms of everybody within their particular field, so for instance, I'm constantly seeking out funding. I'm constantly trying to rally government, looking at who different stakeholders are that might potentially be interested in sort of funding our stories. And then obviously tech companies like Google and Microsoft, they know that we are here, they know that Africa exists, they know that there are people within the community that are creating exciting things. So I think we're going to start seeing more investment into the tech side of things, or at least we hope we will. But as I mentioned, it's really about keeping all the wheels turning. So people are actively working at this every single day. And I think people can get involved by just reaching out and communicating. I think that just reaching out and communicating with any one of us, you'll be able to gauge if you are able to get involved and if you are able to help. I think the biggest hurdle for storytelling is that we are such a small group of people, and we're operating in a silo, and getting government to understand what it is that we're doing is tough. And that's why we see value in communicating with Animation SA and collaborating with animators and building the space across industries. You know, it sort of helps not just bolster collaboration, but it bolsters the industry as well. So I think that that's where we're at. We're doing a recon of where we are, and we're reaching out to different. I think that was a very vague round the way answer, so I'm sorry if I'm not getting to the meaty bit. But
essentially we're still figuring it out, and we need help figuring it out. Like,
absolutely,
your community is technologists and artists. You're not MBAs who can figure out business processes and product monetization, and those are the kind of collaborations we need as well. We need to interface with the communities who understand distribution and tech manufacturing and all of those things. It has to be a broader collaboration as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, at Animation SA, we've recognized that the AR and VR community are part of the what we call the animation industries, because it's all about using similar skill sets and tool sets to develop a variety of products and experiences and exhibitions. So yeah, so we're working quite hard to ensure that that people have, first of all, access to information about how they can connect with these networks, and then to connect the VR community with, plug them into some of our bigger initiatives where we have managed to open some doors and to facilitate some conversations with government, with development agencies, to ensure that that everyone is represented, and that there are opportunities for Africans to tell stories in this exciting new space, because that's what it's about, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they are definitely ecosystem builders within the space. I know that, for instance, Ingrid Kopp from Electric South, and Judith from Immersive 3D in Nigeria, and Brian from Black Rhino VR in Kenya. They're working on something quite exciting. I'm not quite sure if I'm able to talk about it, but it's definitely something towards the ecosystem. You know, they have a more they have a broader understanding. They've been in it for years, and they have a broader understanding for what this ecosystem sort of like requires in terms of infrastructure. And I think that that's something that we need to really sort of, that's why we're rallying around collaboration, because the infrastructure in Africa is lacking. I mean, basic infrastructure. So to get this kind of infrastructure is a big ask. So in a nutshell, everything that you just said, as well as just collaborations and sort of mapping out where we are and taking recon of, or doing recons of where we're at constantly.
Yeah, so there's another question that's come through that's, I suppose, to what you've been talking to, but perhaps a little bit more specific. Who are some of the funders for VR projects? If you can't mention like specific names, like just, you know, do you have a lot of private investors, or is it government funding that's coming through, art funding, you know, international funding? Can you give us a sense of who's funding initiatives in this space?
So government funding is very limited. I think that we're still at a place where we're trying to, they're interested and they're curious, but they don't quite understand. And the space is a bit of a risk for them. It's not that the space is a risk, it's that their lack of understanding leads them to believe it to be a bit of a risk. But currently, a lot of funding for stories are coming from CSI funds abroad, as well as festival fundings. I recently participated in Cinemart for the International Film Festival of Rotterdam, and there's a lot of co-production financing available from Netherlands, Canada, France, Taiwan. There are many co-production funders who are interested in collaborating with South African and African artists. So it's about tapping into that as well.
Great, thanks very much for that insight. That's pretty much all we have time for today. Kirsten, is there anything you want to say in closing?
Like I said, reach out, hashtag Immersive Africa, and the group is called We Are VR Josie. Reach out to me. My name's Kirstin Lee Grey on all platforms as well. We are an open community. We're excited about the future of storytelling in the space. We're excited about the space as well. And if there's anything that obviously my area of expertise is storytelling, but if you're more tech focused, if you're interested in the business side of things, we can put you in contact with the right people, and we're excited, and we hope that from this talk you're excited as well.
We are indeed. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kirsten. It's been a very enlightening conversation. I would just like to take a few moments to also thank our sponsors for this event, Animation SA and the Goethe-Institut South platform have helped to collaborate to bring you this information. We're running a series of events this week. We have one more workshop left tomorrow morning to unpack some of the Animation SA initiatives and strategies and to get your input. And we have another talk, Isabel Rourke's talk tomorrow on education opportunities in animation. And next Monday, we have a panel discussion where we will invite our speakers back to answer any other specific questions you may have. And not to forget, there's a networking event in Cape Town and Johannesburg on Friday afternoon after work. So hopefully you can join us for those. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, sign up for more events. Check out our social media campaign, and we look forward to engaging further with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun. Okay, so I'm guessing we're not live anymore, I hope.
We're still live.
Are we? I always do that.
The button's going to go off now. Hopefully.
Somebody just sent me a message. You are still alive, Kirsten Lee.
Okay. I think the best way to stop the live feed is to end the session.
Great. Thanks so much, Kanda. Thanks for having us, and I'll chat to you offline.
Yes. Perfect.
Well.
Thanks, Kirsten. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.